can speak for the whole division and say just how saddened we are by the loss of Professor Neville-Jan. I've personally worked with Dr. Jan for over 20 years, and so many of the successes in the department occurred because of her contributions. I think what was really most special and what touched my heart the most was the way that Ann would inspire our students with disabilities who had the dream of becoming occupational therapists. In one case, we had a veteran who had been injured in, I believe it was the Iraqi War, and he told me that after he had incurred this brain injury, that all he could think of was Ann's smile as he was recovering, and it was that smile that gave him the inspiration to go on and to recover. And I think for everyone in the department, Ann was just the epitome of caring, decency, and an amazing work ethic. It was simply impossible to think you couldn't do things when you saw what Ann was able to do. So I think that Ann's spirit will always be with us, and she will always be a part of this division, and I know that we'll feel her guidance as we move forward as the Mrs. T.H. Chan Division of Occupational Science and Occupational Therapy.
Forever be grateful for my relationship with Dr. Ann Neville-Jan. As a doctoral student in this division, Dr. Neville-Jan was always my biggest supporter, and as a faculty member, she was one of my biggest supporters, and I've learned so much from her. In particular, I will never take for granted the lesson I learned from Dr. Neville-Jan on the distinct difference between a disabled person and a person with a disability. And this is a gift from Dr. Neville-Jan that we have infused into our curriculum in the occupational therapy program here. And it is a gift that I will pass on to all of our future clinicians and my own children. So for this gift, I am forever grateful. I will miss Dr. Neville-Jan, and I love Dr. Neville-Jan always.
Ann Neville-Jan was one of the most inspirational people I have ever had the pleasure of knowing. She was someone who made time for everyone and really made you feel heard, made you feel important, made you feel validated, and she connected to people in a way that's really difficult and that most of us don't make time to do on a regular basis. And I was really struck by that in conversations I've had with other faculty, because we all felt like we had this really special individual connection with her, and she had the ability to make hundreds of people feel that way simultaneously. And that is something that I will always remember and take with me as an important part of who she was and who she was for people at USC, for people within the occupational therapy community, for people within the other groups that she was a part of. And someone said a couple weeks ago that Dr. Clark is kind of the brain of our division, the head of our division, but Dr. Neville-Jan, Ann was the heart. And I really feel like it couldn't have been characterized better. She was the heart and the lifeblood for all of us, that really provided that sense of family and community here, and really helped to bring us all together. And if we can take any part of that from her into our lives moving forward, I think we'll all be a lot better off.
I would describe Dr. Ann Neville-Jan as kind, compassionate, and courageous. I had the opportunity to have her as a professor when I started the OT program at USC in 1996. And hearing her perspective of having a physical disability, but also having the expertise as an OT working in mental health, really gave me a wonderful opportunity to see how OT really shines when we look at patients holistically. And I had the wonderful opportunity to nominate Dr. Ann Neville-Jan for the OTAC Lifetime Achievement Award at the 2014 OTAC conference. And I'm so glad that we were able to celebrate her legacy of achievement, and that her legacy will live on. We will miss her terribly.
Dr. Neville-Jan, I miss your sweet presence, your kindness, your smile. Thank you for being my advisor. You exemplified therapeutic use of self in the sweetest of ways. For sure, I would not be graduating without you. And I appreciate that your office was a place of safety. You were always very personable and warm, kind, listening but also sharing. And really, I miss you.
So, Dr. Neville-Jan was a really unique person in my experience here at the program. I got to talk to her not just as a student seeking advice, but also just sometimes as a friend, talking about things that we would get excited about together. And I think she offered me an opportunity to really feel like I could just be curious and excited about occupational therapy, but just about life in general. And she was just such a happy person that inspired you to really want to do more and to want to ask questions and strive for excellence and advocate for yourself and for the people that deserve it. So she was definitely a huge influence on me, and I know my class as well.
Dr. Ann Neville-Jan was one of those people who really knew the meaning of kindness. Whenever I saw her in the hallways, she'd always ask how I was doing, and she'd, really genuinely care. She'd always invite me into her office, we'd talk, she'd, catch my life. So I really miss her. She's definitely one of those special people that, say, has a deep, lasting impact.
I really appreciated all of my interactions with Dr. Neville-Jan. I honestly have her to thank for the fact that I stayed here in Southern California and stayed in the program through some really tough times in my first year. And she was really someone that made me feel like someone was listening and someone cared. And for that, and for my whole career in OT now, I really appreciate that she was there for me in that time and helped me when I really needed someone. And I'm really going to miss her in the future when I want to have conversations about OT or about life, because she really was not only a mentor to me, but a good friend.
So Dr. Neville-Jan, she has a lot of perseverance, that's what I'll say. She's also a fighter. She's fought a lot for OT. She's fought through a lot in her life, and more importantly, she taught a very stubborn person something about expecting more, learning that people, all my judgments may not be always correct about people with special needs. And it's a strong reminder that people are capable of a lot more than we can ever think of.
Dr. Ann Neville-Jan was one of the most kindest, warmest, and endearing people I've ever had the privilege of meeting. She served as my faculty mentor, and the guidance that she has provided me throughout the program is and continues to be a great value in my life. She had this uncanny ability of, regardless of place or circumstance, just making you feel like your presence is special. She was a tremendous advocate, and all the work and contributions and sacrifices she has done for our profession will never be overlooked undervalued, nor forgotten.
Dr. Ann Neville-Jan was one of a kind,
Genuine.
friendly,
encouraging,
enlightening,
gracious,
courageous,
exuberant,
loving,
ethical,
inspirational,
undiminishable.